and welcome to another All Nation Line video. That was just to whet your appetite a little bit, but I wanted to briefly talk about my B units. I modeled the Chicago Great Western, and of course their lash-ups was A, BB, BBA with approximately 9,000 horsepower on a lot of the front end of their freight trains. So naturally I tend to have a good number of B units, and what you see in front of you is the underside of some of the B units I have that I've done in the past. Particularly for my dummy engines, I redid the bottoms with basically a one-piece fuel tank and the end platforms and put on dummy trucks. I did the same thing over here on this particular model, but I made fuel tank a little bit different, see-through, because my intention was to have a drive shaft from one tower drive to a lower profile truck. But my purpose in showing you this today is to let you see that I have powered one of my units with a dual tower drive, and it's ready to go and just drop into this unit. If we pull this out, we basically have our engine body, engine shell ready to mount the motor and the chassis that you just saw in the motor and the chassis is a drop-in piece. Here is the chassis with the motor, with the drive shafts going to the dual tower drives. Both of them are Helix geared, all-wheel pickup. And for my purposes and the fact that I have basically a switching layout, I wanted a B unit that could work well with, say, an NW2 switcher or a GP7. I like those different combinations, and since I'm interested in a local freight type consist and switching operations, I went with a motor that's only got about 3,420 RPM top speed. I like the fact that it runs a lot slower and it's high torque. It is much more quiet, of course, once it's mounted in the body, and this is relatively easy to install. So we basically line up the fuel tank here, and we'll stuff this in the body of the engine, and of course it might bump into my couplers, but luckily my coupler pocket's clear, and I line it up and I'm ready to put my 8 screws in on this engine. It's basically ready to go. Put it on the tracks and it will go ahead and be ready to operate with some of my other engines. Not sure if that'll go. Let's give it a shot. Now, most of my engines are actually operating 2-rail DC. I'm not using any type of DCC, at least not yet. And what you want to do is make sure it's compatibly wired so that your engines will run together. For example, we have the 3-rail, 2-rail conversion engines like this GP40 Reading lines. It was an MTH body, and what you'll be able to do if you're trying to match up your locomotives is to make sure that it's wired correctly. Now, when we start this one out, you're going to see these two engines go in opposite directions. So it's a relatively easy thing to reverse the polarity with this little plug here. We just switch them, the wires, put the tape back on, and it's a temporary wiring in case somebody wants to put in sound or DCC, or even power on board. Configure these B units with that type of power and configuration. So now we'll show you a little demo on how they run together. So that basically concludes this video. Just wanted to show you how I configured one of my B units with a dual drive, and the fact that I wanted a unit that would run significantly slower than a 65-mile-an-hour road engine for general local freight and switching operations.